Hey everybody, this is Nate with Exley Apiaries. Today we're going to be assembling a pre-cut beehive kit. I bought this one from New Bee for about 125 bucks. You can find a link to their site, it's just Amazon, in the description below. But it came with a complete setup, which has a lid, bottom board. Notice that the bottom board is solid, it's not a screen board. So if you want a screen bottom board, you're going to need to specify that or find a different provider. This starter kit came with both a deep and a super. For those of you who are new, don't get scared. The difference between a deep and a super is that a deep is deeper and a super is thinner. The deep is where the baby bees are going to be born and raised, and the super sits on top and is where your honey is going to be going. Oh man, I love the smell of that fresh wood. You gotta take a moment, you gotta stop, you gotta smell it. Because there's that wax coated frame in there too. You can get your frames not coated with wax or coated. I would say get them coated because it makes it smell more like home when you're first getting your bees in there. Goodness gracious, it just keeps on coming. All the frames. Now the starter kit is complete, so not only does it come with the top and the bottom of the boxes and the frames, it also comes with a few accessories like your queen excluder and an entrance reducer, which I already pulled out but neglected to mention, and nails. So the things that you're going to need to start with is just your box here. You're going to need your handy dandy hammer. I recommend using a glue bot. I used to use glue out of the bottle all the time. This was definitely an upgrade. It made gluing so much cleaner, so much easier. That's all you're going to need to get started. In this video, we're going to put together one of each. We're not going to bore you by putting together all 20 frames because there's 10 frames per box. We're just going to focus on building one super, one deep, and one frame. Let's get started. Alright, when you're putting these together, the main thing that you want to remember, the first thing you want to find is your handles. These are going to be on the exterior of your box. You don't want to have them facing inward. They need to be on the outside so that way you as the beekeeper can access and lift up that box with those handles. As far as which side is up, this flat part needs to be up at the top so it allows you to grip. You'll also notice that at the top here is also a routed edge. This is where your frames are going to sit. Now I'll show you if you can't quite visualize it. I'll show you later. But your frames are going to sit up here, so this also needs to be at the top. Now if your supplier, whoever you're buying from, sends you pre-cut wood and this router piece is at the top and then your handle is upside down, you need to call them back and get a return because that's going to be a lot of pain and heartache in the future if you don't have those two correlated correctly. But go ahead and start by placing your items right side up. Depending on who you buy from, they may or may not have dovetailed puzzle point joints, puzzle piece joints here. This is actually some great joinery. I was impressed that they did this. Normally they'll just send the rectangular joints, but they went dovetail, and I am happy with that. There's a little bit more strength in the corners. Like I mentioned at the beginning, all you're going to need is a hammer, the nails, usually which ship with the box, and your glue. I do recommend that you use glue. The nails will hold it together, and the joinery will generally do a good job of holding it all together as well. But that glue is going to bind and make sure that your beehive lasts longer than if you were to just do it dry joint. So I do not recommend dry joint. Put a little bit of glue in there, take your finger, dab it around, so it doesn't ooze out the edges and drip down, so I'll make it look messy. And do it to the other side. Wash, rinse, repeat. Alright, these joints are dovetailed. It might look like it's going to be complicated putting it together, but simply put them on a flat surface, line them up. You may need to use a rubber mallet. Oh, no, there you go. Those fit in there just fine. If they give you trouble, try using a rubber mallet or your fist to knock them in gently. But before you do that, I would check and just make sure that everything's lined up, because these joints are cut according to what is right side up. So if they're not fitting together correctly, that may mean that you have something upside down. So make sure to double check it, see everything's in the right position. Looks like this is all flush, all good. I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of the joints before I start nailing. That opinion can vary on which one you should do first. Just know that it won't kill you if you happen to do this reverse than the way that I'm doing it. Now, even without the nails, you'll notice this is already a pretty solid box, and that's just because of that lovely dovetail joinery we've got going on. Just go around the edges, make sure everything's flush, the way it should be. All the corners are connected. Beautiful. I'm impressed with this provider. I have been making my own bee boxes and equipment ever since I got started, and this is the first time I've seen anybody send a box with dovetail finger joints. So I'm pretty happy. Now that you've got your box assembled and glued, go ahead and take out the nails. And I know that there's some of here that are varying sizes. I want you to use your biggest nails first. Save the smaller nails for the frames. So find your big nails, and don't go overboard. You're not going to need a nail on every single finger joint here. Let's just stick with doing 2 per side. So we'll do 2 here, 2 there, 2, 2, etc. This is something that's really fun actually to do with the family, because the difficulty level is about like building a birdhouse. It's about the same as building a birdhouse. So if you have littles who can handle a hammer, it's just a beehive. It's all right if they nick it up a little bit. This would be a good thing to drag everybody into the living room for, and everybody can get their hands on helping build this. So, we're starting with 4. 4 on this face, and we're going to do 4 on every other face as well. In the course of assembly, you may split some of the joinery. Don't panic. You used glue, so it's going to be okay. You'll see here I split it just a little bit. But like I said, don't panic. It's going to be okay. As long as you used glue, you don't really have anything to worry about. Now, if it's a serious split and you bust off a piece of the pine, take that wood glue, put some of that wood glue on the place where it splintered off, and then put it right back on. And it'll usually fasten on just fine. So make sure you've got that wood glue. It'll save your life. Alright, check all your sides. Make sure you didn't miss a side. I missed a side. Let's get that. When you're all finished, this is what it should look like. Now, if whoever you bought your beehive from did not send nails, then you need to call them up and ask them why, because that's common courtesy for these pre-assembled hives to come with their own nails. But if you're in a pinch and you end up having to get nails for yourself, these are just 1 1/4 inch, looks like 1 1/4 inch brass nails. Any nail will do. You just don't really want to go longer than 1 1/4 inch for your hive bodies. Now the frames, you can use some simple tacks that you might use to hang up your picture frames on the wall. Those will work just fine. We'll be using glue on those as well. So that's the deep. The super is going to go together just the same way. And like I mentioned in the beginning, the difference between the super and the deep is that the super is where the honey is going to be going. The deep is where the brood is going to be going. This is also called the brood box. We call it a deep because it's obviously deeper, but you will also hear it called by the brood box. Now, if your kit only came with a deep, that's all right. Super is technically not really necessary until you get into the honey flow and the bees are starting to build out that honeycomb and put honey in anyway. So if you're just starting out and you're just needing to get bees in a box, just go with the deep. It's all right if you don't have a super. But we're going to go ahead and assemble a super just that way we can have that in our pocket as well. So I hope you see so far that assembly is pretty simple. Each box is just 4 pieces. Make sure that they're right side up. And if you can do that, put glue and nails in, you're good to go. And there you go. That's your super all put together. I neglected to mention at the beginning, you're probably going to want to have some newspaper down on your surface because that glue will drip. It's almost inevitable, and you just want to have a clean work surface to move to in between boxes. So what you're looking for, the finished product, is going to have its handles facing up. They're going to be on the outside of the box. So if I'm a beekeeper, I can come in and I can pick it up just like that. The routed edges should be on top, and they should be across from each other. It's really not too, it'd be difficult to mess it up. So give yourself some grace, go at it with some fun, take some time to smell the fresh wood and the nice beeswax. We're going to move on and do the frames now. Okay, let's talk about these parts. Don't let the volume confuse or frighten you here. All right, you've got some different sizes. They should be bundled. In shipping and route, they might have come apart and some may have fallen out as these did. Just group them according to size. These little short ones, these are for your super frames. These tall ones are for your deep frames. Separate those two. Everything else is just universal. These are all going to be the same length, same size. You could use them for either your deeps or your supers. We're just going to go ahead and start with one deep frame. Each frame has 5 components. Has a top bar, a bottom bar, and then 2 sidebars. And these sidebars have ears on them. I'll show you where those go in a second. Last but not least, your foundation. And this is called foundation. This isn't actually beeswax, it's just plastic that's hopefully been coated in beeswax. I mentioned at the beginning, if it's coated with beeswax, it makes it much more acceptable to the bees. They're quicker to adopt it and build. We're going to go ahead and put glue on our major joints, which, starting with the top bar, is going to be right there. Right there. I don't know if y'all can see if it's far enough, close enough. Spin it around. This is the bottom of it. You'll see it in a second. We're going to take our 2 ears. Let's go ahead and glue those 2. You're going to need that added strength. The reason you want these to be sturdy is because this is where the bulk of your weight is going to be hanging. Your bees are building their comb on these frames. So it's important that they're joined well. Because this frame goes down to the box. When you, as the beekeeper, pull it up out of the box, and I've had this happen and it's very frustrating, you pull it up and then all of a sudden one of these ears will pop off. And then there just went this whole frame of brood down into the box. And now your bees are all angry at you because I didn't take the time to do it right. So take the time, do it right. It will pay you back in the future. All right. That's those pieces. You can go ahead and glue this. We could go ahead and nail the top. You know what, that would probably be smarter. Let's go ahead and nail the top. Now you're going to use the little nails. Don't use the big ones, they will split your wood. Use the little bitty ones. These are about, I want to say 3/4 inch. If you have tacks that you would use to hang picture frames on the wall, those will work as well. I'm going to do one per side, right smack dab in the middle. Make sure you have your glue in there. That glue is going to provide the integrity that that nail doesn't necessarily have the ability to provide. There we go. Nice solid joint. Now some of you might be wondering, well heck, I can keep those ears from falling off by putting a nail right in here and right in here. I would say not to do that. You put that nail there, unless you're drilling a pilot hole, if you put a nail right here, it's going to split that ear right in half. It's a very small, delicate piece of wood. Stick with doing one up here, one up there, and let glue do the rest of the work. Just make sure you use glue. Okay, I'm going to put it upside down. Still got the glue in there. Put a little up here, on these edges. Glue, 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 folks. That's why I also recommend using the glue bot. You're using this glue so much that a standard glue bottle will get pretty frustrating in the course of an hour that you're using to put this hive together. Now you might be saying, wait, what about the foundation? Don't you put the foundation in next? You can. I'll show you a trick though for putting it in. I don't put it in next because it's just that much more to handle as I'm trying to nail these things in. But to each his own. If it works better for you that way, have at it. Just know that it's not imperative to have it in there before you start. We're going to do just the same as we did on the top. One nail on each end. Oop, that one's wanting to tilt over. If you've ever nailed anything before, there's just some common nailing sense. Make sure your nail goes in up and down, straight up and down, otherwise it's going to come out the side if it goes in crooked. So, word to the wise. Now you can put your foundation in. So, you'll notice it's bigger. It won't just fit in automatically. That's fine. So take it, push it with your fingers. Whoops. It'll slide in. There you go. Slide it in and hold it. Now the reason it's staying there, I don't know if y'all are close enough to see, but each of these pieces of wood has a groove cut down the center. And that's true for the bottom, this bottom piece here, and it's true also for the top pieces. That's where that foundation is sliding into. So once I put that frame together, all I have to do is put one end in either the top or the bottom groove. Then I can push the rest of that frame and click it into that top groove to where you come out with a beautiful Langstroth deep frame. But that's what it'll look like, finished product. 4 nails all together. Make sure every joint is glued. Now, we're going to stop with that. We don't want to go through and build all 20 frames at once, but let's go ahead and put the hive together so you can see how all of this fits. Start with your bottom board. You'll notice that one side has about 1/4 inch on the skirt. The other side has about 1/2 inch. Put the 1/2 inch side up. Next, take your deep. Deep is always going to be sitting on the bottom. He's just a bottom kind of guy. Next, if you have your frames built out, take them and they're going to slip right in your box just like that. Isn't that beautiful? That's what those beveled, these routed edges are for. The ears of your frames are going to sit on those edges. We'll put all 10 in here. Depending on the width of your box, there's a few different widths. There's 10 frame widths, there's 8 frame widths. Industry standard is 10 frames. You'll put 10 frames in here, and you put 10 frames in your super as well. Newbie perk, your queen excluder, so I'm going to go on top of that. Your super. Keep in mind I haven't put all the frames in here like I should, so if you think something is missing, you're right. Something is. I didn't put any frames in there. Build out your super frames, put them in the box. This is not completely necessary. It really isn't. Some folks use it. I don't. In all honesty, I actually need to go do some research and understand what you use it for to begin with. But this is where it belongs. Then you're going to take your telescoping lid, telescoping cover, and that's the last part of your hive. You're going to go together like that. And that is a Langstroth deep and super hive with a telescoping lid, queen excluder, and I cannot forget our handy dandy entrance reducer. Any other accessories are not necessarily, they won't come, this is considered a complete kit. Well, the only other thing I would recommend that you would get is a entrance feeder, also called a boardman feeder, but it will fit right here, or a hive top feeder, which feeds about a gallon at a time. A boardman feeder only feeds a quart. If you have a weak hive, use a hive top feeder. If you're just starting out, don't worry about the hive top feeder. Just go with the boardman feeder at the front. It's easier to see how much they're taking down, how fast they're going about it. The only reason I would recommend using a hive top feeder is if you have a bad robbing problem. But that's for another video. That's a Langstroth hive. This is a new bee, starter beehive with frames. All the components that you need were the hammer and the glue bot and some newspaper. If you enjoyed this video, you should go check out my channel at Exley Apiaries. We host a Beekeeping 101 crash course every year. It's 5 sessions, takes you from the beginning to the end of getting started in just the basics of beekeeping. So if this is something that you want to be started on next year, you've got bees coming in the spring, it's a great place to start. Also, make sure you subscribe and you like. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope this was a good information on how to put together your Langstroth hive.